Good afternoon. This is E Black with another Black Afternoon Conversations. Today I got Uncle Stu. Wait a second. Let me say it right because I call him Uncle Stu, but it's Uncle Stu, the old man on the block. Please check out his channel. Today we are going to be discussing Andrew Tate. Is he ruining relationships? Like always, you guys know how the algorithm works. We need you guys to like. We need you guys to subscribe. If you haven't already, please check out the playlist on my channel. Also, if you would like to see a lot of behind the scenes exclusive stuff or just generally show your support, please join my Black Pride membership. Oh, wrong one. Be a part of the Black Pride. But anyway, how's it going, Uncle Stu?
Doing well, sir. Doing well. How's everything going with you?
Oh, I am so blessed. I am blessed as I can be. So sorry we starting a little late, but
Hey, we doing good. We doing good, man. For me, anytime is the right time. So that's what happens when you ain't got too much to be doing in the house.
hey. I always tell people when Stu super chat me, I say, look, I know I'm gonna shout this out. He's spending that good retirement money.
Look, I tell
I ain't
everybody
gonna
I'm
let
broke,
this
man.
one go to waste. You know, I get,
Uh,
so I appreciate, of course, Stu showing up. Today's show, we're going to be talking in regards to Andrew Tate.
yes.
I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Andrew Tate, right?
Yes, I am. I'm familiar with him as a not really a content creator, but a vocal voice within, if you want to call it, the major red pill sector. So yes, I am familiar with him.
Well, yeah. So recently, if you were to actually read articles, if you read articles like some people do, uh, Andrew Tate came out, or I say Vice came out with an article in regards to Andrew Tate. It says here that let's see, what is the highlight? When your boyfriend becomes an Andrew Tate fan. uh,
Yeah, that was
I
interesting.
thought it was an interesting article. I thought it was an interesting article, and as I'm reading it, I think we can really deep dive into this subject. So let's get started. It said in February 2013, Sophie met a man in a bar who later became her boyfriend. Like every rom com, meet cute with his exact storyline. The pair began dating until they came to the natural mutual realization that they wanted to be together. Neither of them knew that night out, a beer soaked bar floor and a chat with a stranger would lead to a 9-year relationship. They also could have never predicted its end. In January of this year, Sophie wrote on Reddit, I'm so sad losing the person I loved for 9 years, but it's exhausting. She detailed how her partner had begun to parrot incel language and made her feel unsafe. He'd even denied she was a person of color. Her post was titled, My boyfriend has fallen down the tape pipeline. Interesting. What do you think so far?
I'm going to tell you, first of all, let me give a big shout out to Jedi Mike in the house.
What up,
Um,
Jedi?
when I read that first part and saw that tape pipeline, um, I really wish I could have took a more deep dive into her conversation. Reason being is because we're looking at 9 years, and I'm wondering if they had a healthy relationship in the beginning. what led him to wanting to listen to content from Andrew Tate, because I see Andrew Tate more from the side of young single men. Some of the young men that I know has been influenced by him is actually, believe it or not, white versus African American. Um, so I would love to know what made him go that direction.
A very interesting question. Yeah. A lot of times we consider red pill or men based as single men.
Correct.
Uh, I I would almost say that is not. I would almost say, well, as we get deeper into this article, I think there's going to be maybe some clues too,
Yeah,
because I think there's another guy in this article who
your mic is
development,
popping on you. It's
and
going
then
in
of
and out.
course when you get into self development. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Just go back maybe about a minute of what you said
I'm
because it popped
doing
in and
like a
out.
thousand things. My computer's screaming at me saying, "You know better."
Oh, okay.
Is that better now?
Yeah, it's good.
Is it better now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so you're going out on me now.
Oh no, I didn't say nothing. Did you just say something a
Give me
minute
one
ago?
second, Stu.
Okay.
Yeah, I did say something, but you started popping out on me. So now
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
doing like five different things on my computer, and
Oh, okay.
it decided that it's gonna give me the fist futs. But yeah. It was very interesting to hear about that. I will say that sometimes men do get into this by some self improvement, maybe even some relationship advice from a man's point of view. Sometimes YouTube
Right.
may show one video, and next thing you know, you go down the rabbit hole. I think a lot of people are introduced to necessarily the manosphere for a number of reasons,
Correct.
so I want to make sure that we're it's not necessary. A person can be exposed to the manosphere or men's rights or men's self-improvement, not necessarily as a single man looking for tips.
Right. Right.
So so let's continue reading. Let's see. In 2023, Andrew Tate's impact is octopus like and stretches far beyond the internet. The alpha male influencer, deeply misogynistic messaging is parroted on school grounds, in workplaces, and even within relationship, despite his recent arrest and social media ban. The 35-year-old kickboxer and younger brother Tristan are currently being held in custody in Romania until 27th February, while police investigate and allegations of rape and human trafficking, charges which they both deny. A Vice World News investigation obtained a audio recording of the older Tate in which he appeared to admit to raping a woman from the UK and boasted to her, "Am I a bad person? Because the more you didn't like it, the more I enjoyed it." Tate has built up a legion of followers made up of mostly teen boys and young men enticed by motivational self help videos, but littered throughout his viral clips, which are posted across YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, are claims that rape victims bear responsibility for their abuse, that he prefers to date 18 and 19-year-olds because he can make an imprint on them, and that women are men's property. What you think so far?
Well, I think we have to really clarify language, and I'm not, because I don't think a lot of young men understand the difference between right now what I would define as having a preference versus it being misogynistic. And I think that word misogynistic is something that really needs to have clarity and definition. I also think that with the large amount of single mother homes, that men are actually starving for what is masculinity. And Tate gives off a, me being much older, Tate gives off a false sense of bravado of masculinity, and therefore that can be attractive to someone who doesn't understand what it is. He shows off material things. He's, playing tough guy. He's having the attitude of, is my way or the highway. It's sort of the same image. Back in history, the old what's that cowboy movie? Um, Lord, I can't think of that cowboy's name, but it's always that in that
Clint
line,
Eastwood.
in that, huh?
Clint
Yeah,
Eastwood.
yeah, sort of like that Clint Eastwood type of character. Don't take no mess off of nobody. So that shows off a pseudo masculinity, to that degree. Um, but again, it's such a deep dive and whatnot, because I can even argue the other side. Is Vice doing Andrew Tate a hit piece? What are people defining as misogynistic? um what exactly are these voicemail images? Because I do know kind of more updated information based on where that article is coming from. There's a lot of pro and con into both. But I will say, just based on what you read, I think a lot of young men really needs to understand the difference between developing themselves and development, and what your preference are. And what your preference may be at 18, 19, and 20 is not going to have the same preference at 30, at 40, at 50, because as you grow and develop, so does your preferences grow and develop. So he's catching them when they really don't know what their preferences is. So he's imprinting a preference on them and saying, this is how you have to treat women. You lead with your pocket. But I always will tell a man, if you lead with your pocket, she's going to also lead with her purse. So that's how I'm looking at it. I can see the vibrations of you talking, but I don't hear anything.
Thing.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay, now I can
You-
hear you.
you- Yeah. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Like I said, this is an open kind of panel thing. We just, if you guys would like to add anything into it, you don't have to cam up. Just having a conversation around the lunch table while you be at work or enjoying lunch or out and about doing your errands. Um, but yeah, you're right. He does represent a certain kind of machismo, masculine pseudo father figure
Mhm.
for a lot of men. Um, it's I think I remember Tupac early in the days.
Right.
I was young, 16, 14, 13, and these are the things that as young people you say, oh, I like that. I would love to do that, and
Right.
and of course your
Exactly.
parents are like, nah, we not going there, and
Exactly. Exactly.
and I think every generation. I remember from my. I don't want to say I remember, but from my understanding, even the leather jackets from what's that guy John
The
Travolta's role,
Fonz.
the
Oh,
Fonz.
I was thinking of the Fonz when you said leather jacket.
Yeah, the leather jackets and the cool whipped hair.
Right. Right.
I think
Right.
every generation has those types of individual that men strive to be. And I don't see nothing. I don't see that much wrong with it. I still think real life kicks in. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, real life kicks in, and you either got it or you don't, and you try to figure it out. But I do like the fact that are definitely questioning whether there's something in that young man's heart lacking already, that he's reaching out to these people for that. And I think that's where the internet does come in, you know.
Right.
I think the internet does give you a place to say, you know what, I'm lacking in building cars. I need to go look it up, and you find out, oh, I like this, and you get down the rabbit hole of car building, and then you end up in Teslas.
Right. Right.
You
But
know, it never fails. The algorithm will always find you. So I think, like I said, I really think that he's not as a big of a threat in terms. I think he's just another threat that to people who want to keep the status quo up.
yeah, I'll let anybody know, because I know you referenced the internet. This is really generational, and I'm not even going to say generational like toxic generation. Um, I mean, I grew up with mother and father in the home, and I still was influenced by other men outside of my home and outside of my uncles and cousins. So there's always been that area where certain types of men or certain types of characteristics of men you kind of gravitate to. When I was 16 and became a Muslim, I gravitated to a social worker that was a Muslim. I gravitated to the Malcolm X days of when I was a Muslim. I was actually at the match that he used to go to. So, you gravitate to, what you believe or you think masculinity is, even outside of your natural home, until, like you said, you get mature. I think where today it gets a little bit foggy and a little bit dangerous is that the masculinity that's being represented now, or in certain areas being represented, is not real masculinity. Is not real accountability. It's not really development. You know what I'm saying? Some of the things that they're talking about women doing today, they was doing that when I was in high school. Women gravitated to the thug, and I came up during the crack era, so what kind of thugs they was gravitating to. Um, so it's really the same thing. It's just more, you see it more because you're online now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. A lot of the conversations, whether they be online, I think there are little nuances, but
Yes.
it's really underneath. It's the same stuff that I, even myself, have seen. And I try to tell people a lot of times I didn't get married until I was later in life, so I've dealt with the internet and dating and internet and uh speaking and the stuff. So I totally get the concerns, and the also the generational divide that may, youngsters, how we always used to say, you just don't understand, dad, you
Right.
just don't understand,
Right.
mom is different. And and I could see my old self saying that to my pops, and he would say, y'all ain't doing nothing but what we doing.
Exactly. And it's funny because I was telling somebody else, I was like, yeah, when I look at my back analytics, I'm mostly talking to 35-year-olds. And I said, heck, when I was in my early 20s, I didn't want to talk to no 50-year-old neither. So I don't take it personal. You know what I'm saying? As much as you
Yeah.
want to reach that age, I do not take it personal. Like the average 20-year-old is not going to want to listen to me. Why? Because when I was 20, well, what could a 50-year-old tell me? It's like, you 50, I'm 20, at that time,
Yep.
you old, you. So yeah, I mean, I get it. I definitely get it. So I don't even get too much bothered with it. Um, I just say that for anybody that really has a life of maturity, just be prepared to pick them up, put them back, and move it forward,
I
and just
agree.
hope that they don't go down what I call the uh, Peter Pan syndrome, which is don't get up under older people who have still never matured. It is sad when, I look at men my age and older, um, who is still out there trying to do the same thing that you should have got over at 20. Um, I don't hide my tongue when I say I find too many men 55, 60, 65. You still at the 30 years of living life, you haven't really developed anything, you haven't built anything, you haven't gone anywhere, and you're still blaming women for your own life choices and circumstances. I'm not to say that black men don't go through anything or never been through anything, because even I've gone through things. I've been through divorce, I've been through single parenthood, I've had my trials and my tribulations. So I'm not, belittling that. What I hope is that people mature enough to ask the tough questions. What can you teach me? Even if you can tell me the things you did wrong so I don't do those wrong things, is a lot of knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah,
So
and I also think that growth comes in stages. I think a lot of men in particular, or I say a lot of people, like you say, they're older, and you want to know the stages, of growth and development. The things
right.
that I enjoyed or I valued as a 20-year-old changed when I was 25, changed when I was 30, changed when I was 35, 40, you know, and I don't think a lot of the conversations. I think there's a lot of extreme conversations, in terms of, you know, oh, you're either super wealthy and successful, or you're broken living in your basement. And there's in between. There's the one bedroom apartment stage. There's the townhouse stage. The marriage newlywed stage. There's you know all these stages are different versions of you, and I think we sometimes forget those stages. And I tell myself now I'm proud of who I am as a man now, because I've went through all those stages, and I couldn't, like you said, I couldn't sit here and tell my 20-year-old self you need to do XYZ, because
Exactly.
my 20-year-old self would have been like, it don't matter. I'm
Right.
gonna do
Exactly.
me.
Exactly. I mean, let's be honest. And I don't think this is a black thing. How many 20-year-olds is actually going to sit there and listen to you talk about saving and investing for retirement when they're just getting out of high school or just getting out of college? You know what I'm saying? That's just not a concept until you hit like 30, 35. Maybe you start thinking about those things. So you're absolutely right. There's stages, and you're absolutely right. There's these extremes on both sides. I've always said, and I'll say it again here, I have never, ever had a woman ask me how much money I make. Never, ever asked me, am I a six-figure man? I ain't hear about that word until I came online. And that was only a couple of years ago. Still to this day, I've never had a woman ask me that question. When I was dating, and that wasn't but so long ago, average question was, do you have a job? You have income? You got a place to stay? You got a car? That was it. That in it, and to me, that was bare minimum of questions. So even some of the conversation kind of confused me at times as well. But do I understand it? Yes, because I do understand that if you lived in certain places, then I guess I can see those conversations, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I totally get that. Let's get on to oh Lord have mercy. Uh, hold on one second.
Okay,
All of a
okay.
sudden my throat.
Yeah, I
Uh
understand.
Good Lord. All right, so the article continues and says women are now hearing those views come out their partner's mouth. One woman who asked to not share her name out of fears for her safety was in a 6-week relationship with a Tate fan last year. She initially met him through the gym, but they later matched on Tinder, dated, and eventually broke up due to several undesirable traits, including his appreciation for the influencer. One one situation particularly stood out to the 23-year-old who is based on the East Coast of the United States. I tried opening up to him about memories of past sexual assault being triggered. She says, before I could even bring up the topic, he started talking about Andrew Tate. She immediately responded that she would not support anyone who said they moved to Romania because they believed the laws around rape were more relaxed. He replied, "He's top G. He can rape whoever he wants." After that, she says, I no longer felt it was something I could talk to him about. A week later, they ended the relationship. The woman said the whole situation still hurts. She's relieved to no longer be with someone who holds such views. Yeah, and that's the one thing that it's one of those things where I have this topic that I usually cover. I do want to get back to covering the topic. It's called ethical leadership.
Yeah,
It's when you as a leader take responsibility for the words that you came out your mouth, your actions, and I think when you get to these when you get to see how it matriculates throughout your followers, they start mimicking you. So you have to be as
correct.
ethical as possible. And it doesn't mean that you have to do the right things. You have to show why your actions are being followed, or why your actions or the things that you value are being done. And I think this is one of those things where he's like the guy is saying, I don't care. I could touch a woman any type of way, or even our former president, Donald Trump. I just grab him and touch him in the pussy, you know?
Right.
These things didn't matriculate down throughout the society of thought. Like, well, this guy did it, maybe I can do it. I had a nephew, and I had a nephew who went to jail, and I understood his mindset because he had seen all the people older than him, catch bodies, do robins, do such and such, no snitching, and he thought that his actions would only be a slap on the wrist.
Right.
Nope,
Right.
no, and that's the problem that I think we're not. I would hope that more people would be more responsible with their message, because you see, this woman is really opening up to this guy, and all he's saying is like, well, you probably deserved it, or you know bringing an outside male figure to validate your decision making doesn't do right.
Yeah, yeah. It's really hard because I saw a lot of things in that one paragraph. Um, let me stick with the where you're at. It is extremely hard. Let's just say dealing with internet. Unfortunately, drama sells. I seen it in the '90s. Drama sells, and so a lot of people gravitate to the bravado of drama. So here you have this gentleman who is gravitating to the bravado of drama. So he's fogged in what morality is. Then you have the flip side of that argument. Um, Neither one have what I call extreme emotional intelligence. And what I mean by extreme emotional intelligence, I'm sorry, but if I'm in my 20s, I don't have a clue how to respond or to react in an intelligent, emotional way with you telling me you're coming to the relationship with, DV trauma. Uh, You know what I'm saying? I mean, so you already out of the league. To open that up and to say, I'm coming to this relationship with all this trauma, uh, maybe you need to go get help for that trauma first before even trying to jump into a relationship. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at both sides. Then when I add emotional intelligence, this is where it gets tricky. And I'll just use me as the example. Um, for me, Did I listen to Kevin Samuels? I did. Do I like Kevin Samuels? Yeah, I like a lot of things that he said and did. Doesn't mean I agree with his entire platform. But there was some things that was like, yeah, I saw that before. Yeah, XYZ. At the same time, did my wife like Kevin Samuels? Did my oldest daughter like Kevin Samuels? Absolutely not. But is my wife going to divorce me over Kevin Samuels? Is my daughter, no longer going to talk to me because, hey, I happen to like the man? No. So, even at his passing, my daughter called me the very day, the very night that he passed. And we prayed for his daughter and his mother. So that shows you her level of emotional intelligence. Like, yeah, I may not have liked them, but I don't wish evil upon them. So I'm really looking at 2 20-year-olds who are not really there in their what we now call emotional intelligence. And it is hard trying to get to young people to say, hey, saying that you like doing this and trying to explain to them grape is not the answer. That's not what this is. And yeah, giving them the right vocabulary and the right mindset when situations come up like that um, is very hard to teach in this type of environment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's hard.
I remember the. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so I remember the old days. Remember when Snoop Dogg and them came out, bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks.
Right,
You know, all that vulgarness, and we would do the same thing. Nah, parent, nah, pops, we don't care about that. It's just
right,
lyrics. It's
right.
and a lot of it
Exactly.
was a lot of it was true, but some of it did seep into our lexicon of dating and behavior, and especially when I remember Captain Savaho came out, and I remember I vividly have this flashback of like, man, of this girl saying, "Oh man, guys used to take you out, and they used to treat you good, and you bring your stuff, and now after that song came out, you can't ask them to do nothing."
Right, right.
You know,
Look, Willie
so
D tried to get on the manosphere, but do you remember Willie D's songs back in the day and what he was saying? I mean, I was like, Willie D, you was harder than any man I know on these platforms. And that was the early 90s. So yeah,
yeah,
I do believe that you have those influences. And I think for a lot of us who, either A, we gravitate to someone because we want that connection, that social connection, or we actually believe what that influencer is saying. Um, and we're trying to do it a different way. So if you're a young man who, let's say, isn't able to get that woman you desire, or that woman you think you deserve, and someone says, nah, this is how you get it, this is how you do it, then you probably go out there and try it. And if it happens once successfully, oh, you think this is the path to go on. So yeah, I understand it. I understand it. So yeah, that's why I said, when I'm looking at their age, I'm looking at two immature people, and I don't really want to police anybody for who they listen to. Even if we was dating, if someone says, um, dang, I gotta take the extreme. Um, I don't want to start naming influencers. Just say you got an influencer where I may not like that influencer. That person likes the influencer. Well, I got to take the deep dive to either A, figure out why they like that influencer, or B, are they really operating in the full mannerism of, what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I
yeah.
just think it take, but again, am I thinking from a 50-year-old's mindset versus a 20-year-old's mindset? So I'm sensitive as to what mindset am I dealing with. Me as a 50-year-old, I'm going to presume that you probably listen or hear or watch certain movies that I wouldn't watch, but it doesn't mean that you're totally influenced by that particular thing you're seeing or reading. It could be simply entertainment for you, and that's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But at the same time, if uh, gosh, it's tough because even my wife, she used to watch a lot of that. What do they call the ratchet TV stuff?
Yeah,
Reality
yeah,
Housewives and all that stuff. And I couldn't take it because I felt sometimes it would be influential, you know.
right, right, right.
And
I mean,
even
right.
so it I think it does play both ways. I think a healthy dose of anything can be dangerous. But so
I totally
let's
agree with
continue
you.
on because I want to get
Okay.
this article. All right, so let's see. Says here Sophie, whose name we are withholding to protect her safety, is unsure when her partner fell down the Tate rabbit hole. I had seen some videos on TikTok last year warning women to look out for people who listen to or follow Tate. At first, her boyfriend seemed uninterested in Tate, but this soon changed. I guess he started listening to the talks Tate had that weren't about women and realized some of it made sense. So the rest of it couldn't be all be that bad, she says. He began telling Sophie she was holding him back and she should wait for him while he slept with other women. He began calling me out for being too masculine, whatever that means, she says. He also started telling her she needed to be more submissive and feminine. Sophie eventually convinced him to stop listening to Tate, but the damage was done. By then, his TikTok algorithm had set in a lot of men's rights stuff and other misogynistic content, so it was constantly being drilled in his head. He also opted to put Sophie down, calling her low value, a common term in the manosphere, because she had more romantic partners than he did. He would send me videos of men's right people basically saying he was doing nothing wrong, so he kept doing it. This was on top of constant reminders she was worthless and no one would ever love her. So she had to accept his behavior or die alone.
I don't think that's an Andrew Tate there. I, I I think that
So,
moved away from Andrew Tate. That sounds like Black Manosphere talking points. Body counts matter, you know, and yes, femininity over masculinity. Um, yeah, if she stated at I think she's 23. If she stated that she had more quote sexual partners than he did, yeah, body counts matter, and that is a big conversation, especially in the Black Manosphere. Shout out to Chicago Rilla. Shout out to my girl Just Adria. She just running it. Her and Chicago, her and Chef. They just doing the big thing. Um,
yes.
so that is a conversation, and you know I will boldly say I think women do need to understand, for certain age groups body counts does matter, whether you reveal your body count or not, it does. Can it be hypocrisy for a man to say he can run around and have 100 women and still be called a man, while a woman runs around with 100 men and she's called out of her name? Yeah, it's hypocrisy. It is hypocrisy. However, you're not going to change it, because it is what it is. Now, do I encourage men to go get 100 different women, and then when you finally decide to settle down, settle? No, I'm always going to talk about morality in that regards. But at the same time, that is a real thing, and that's not an internet thing. That is a real thing. may not be defined as your body count, but men do take that kind of seriously.
You know what
Again,
I was thinking when I seen this?
yeah.
What if we had a reality show that showed
Hmm.
pimps actually in real life beating
Hmm.
and treating their women miss bad, and then that be propagated on the internet, right? How do you think that the behavior of young men would change then? Do you think they would start emulating the because you
Yeah,
know
because you got to remember,
pimp
Iceberg
that's
Slim
kind of
was
an underworld thing. You have to be a part of it to actually understand and actually get into it. But I think a lot of us understand what pimping is, but nobody really does pimping. You get what I'm saying? So I think what they're kind of saying is that okay, some of the underculture is becoming
yeah,
some of the
perfect.
underculture is becoming more of the foreculture of American society within young men. If we
Absolutely,
get
because yeah, because go back to and Chicago really would definitely understand this. Go back to the days where young brothers was reading Iceberg Slim.
yep, yep,
Iceberg Slim was a strong influence. Um, in the sense of certain, in certain areas of black culture, and was picking up his so-called pimping skills. Then you had the music that came out of Florida. Now they call him Uncle Luke, but think about what Uncle Luke was spitting out. He had to go all the way to the Supreme Court in order to get his message to come across. So absolutely. I think start talking about, if real pimps, which you do have some now. Let's not even argue. You got ex pimps on these in these YouTube streets, also quote
yep.
unquote teaching what they call the game. Um, and again, it's a fight where those who do have maturity and do really understand the whole 9 yards is for them to be able to take it. Um,
I definitely believe that some people are taking the game, but not actually participating in the game. You get what I'm saying? It's like
yeah,
you hear a smooth line, and then you go and implement that in your own dating habits or whatever, but you're not understanding the a lot of what you're doing. You just saying it.
right. And again, it takes somebody else. Chicago Rilla is in the chat. One of the things that I like Chicago Rilla when he was really out here running, trying to explain, and he got a lot of pushback. He understood it from different angles. He understood it from the Chi-Town angle, and he understood it from the ATL angle. And he was cracking that game from both perspectives. And it was hard for people to really get that. You know what I'm saying? Like he know the game. He understands the street. He understands the culture. And he was trying to explain it, but he was getting more pushback from breaking it up and really translating
Yeah, because
it.
we live generally in a society of extremism, and it's like, come on, you can't be that balanced, Rilla.
Right.
You know, that's a lot. It's like we only want you to be one way, and a lot of times Chicago Rilla was definitely gray in a lot of areas because he understood there was a lot of gray, and he
Exactly.
understood both sides of the coin, and in terms of who's being affected by it. You
Right.
know, who's we're
Right.
talking to these, like he would say, these shorties, and we trying to teach them how to move around. We can't just be spitting to them alpha male this and be this when you're not built for it. Some of these youngsters ain't built for it. I've always said some of y'all need to sit down. Go ahead, marry that girl, sit down, get out of here. This ain't
Yeah.
this trying to be in the world stuff ain't for a lot of us or for many of us. And I think a lot of times the message gets confused because you a lot of times they just want you to stay in the game. They want you to still go to the clubs. They want you to go out and spend your money and do all this. When how does that fit in savings? How does that fit in safety?
because you have to understand. Um, because I'm gonna bring back a conversation Chicago really had, and this is to let Chicago know that I'll be really listening. You have to understand there's a lot of money in what's known as poverty pimping. There's a lot of money in that. And what is poverty pimping? I want people to understand that poverty pimping means I want to keep you at a certain sociological level. And if I can keep you at that level and keep you coming back to me at that level, then I'm going to get paid big time for that level. Where do you see poverty pimping at? You see it in the pulpit. You see it in these so-called social networks, what is it? Black Lives Matter as one. You see it whenever somebody's telling you, somebody's holding you down, conversations. And if we don't come together as a group, conversations, the people at the top is making the money. And as long as they can keep you at the bottom, they stay at the top and they stay important. Once you recognize true knowledge, true understanding, and true wisdom, you no longer follow those individuals. And what happens? They become irrelevant.
Yes.
And I remember Chicago was on a platform and he was trying to explain to somebody. I'm not going to name the person he was trying to explain it to. He was trying to explain to somebody that in certain circles, people are at a certain economic, sociological level. They're having a totally different conversation than somebody at his level. And the person he was talking to never got it, still ain't got it to this day. But when you're up at a certain economic and you got to add the and, sociological level, there are certain conversations we're not having. We a whole different mindset, almost a whole different planet. We're not having those conversations. Why? Because money solves a whole lot of problems. And so you don't
Yeah.
have poor people problems when you're living in a certain economic lifestyle. Chicago tried to explain that. I say that also to say when you have a certain level of intellectual intelligence and emotional intelligence, there's certain conversations you no longer need to have. What do I mean by that? An average person that's going to work, studying, doing what he got to do, because development is from the time you born to the time God sends you home. It does not stop. So when you're at certain levels, there's certain conversations I'm not going to have with a woman. I am not going to try to convince a woman who got 13-inch fingernails and multicolored hair why I don't want to talk to her. That's not my energy. You're not in my circle. We don't need to have that conversation. Now, if you ask me why I don't like those things, I'm gonna explain to you. I'm on this purpose. I'm doing this thing, and in my social environment, that's unacceptable. Now, if she doesn't want to accept that, no problem. You go hang out in your social circle. I'm gonna hang out in my social circle. It's just like getting married. When you get married, what is rule number one? You got to get rid of your single friends. Why? Single people going to keep you single. Married people going to keep you married. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I mean, that's just the rule of life and the rule of the game. Does it mean that that one single friend you may have, you can't have? It depends on that single friend's mindset. I tell everybody, I got 6 friends, only 2 is actually single, but they both have what I call married mindset. What do I mean by that? They both want to be married. They both desire to be married. And I am onto them. Not only are they influential for me in business, but I'm their influence when it comes to being a husband. How do you operate as a husband? How do you operate, when it comes to communication about finances, communication about struggle, communication about this? They're learning how to operate and navigate as a husband. You know what I'm saying? Leadership in business is not leadership in the home.
Oh man, say it louder for the people in the back.
Leadership in business is not leadership in the home. They're two totally opposite leaderships.
Man, look, man. If a lot of the times, especially around the groups of men who are married like me, we have different mindsets. There ain't no alpha man stuff in that group conversation. We
Listen,
talk our smack, but we not we not sitting out here. Now my dog want to start barking. Good lordy. We not having those type of conversations. Hold on one sec.
okay.
My fault. But
No,
yeah,
you're
we not
good.
having those type of we not having those type of conversations, and we all see how each other move around, and it doesn't translate to the office. The office, a lot of times we're putting on a mask and a stoic behavior. You know, get home, we see a lot of brothers acting different, and they enjoy it.
Exactly. Well, see, let's put it like this. What I explain to people is what you call simping. First of all, you got to have a level of maturity, and you got to understand what is marriage, and every man probably can define what marriage is in their own right. For me, and I got to emphasize my age. For me, when I decided to remarry, I knew it was going to be forever, but I also came in with a level of confidence and maturity that I have to say I did not have in my first marriage. I purposely did not marry for the right reasons. You know what I'm saying? Looking back, do I say that everything was her fault? No. 6 months after we separated, we came together. We both admitted what we did wrong in the marriage and really how the marriage just fell apart. We also knew that there was no way to bring that marriage back together. We was mature enough to know we ain't gonna be able to put this back together. All of our kids was grown. We can move on. I built myself. She remarried. I remarried. We happy. Marriage, if I have to teach marriage today, in today's time, not this environment, but in today's time, I would explain to people that marriage really needs to be on the basis of upping your social income and upping your social network. What do I mean by upping your social income and upping your social network? Today, the economy is at a place where you're not going to necessarily hear this on the news, but they no longer want you single people around because the environments of a lot of single neighborhoods is not safe economically, is not safe politically, and is not safe socially. So they don't want single people around. This is not just single mama. They don't want single people. Why? The real estate market at the rate that it is right now, and why they was able to raise unregulated rents to the place that they are now is because it takes a lot of single people out of certain neighborhoods. A lot of people don't understand that. No matter how much the government gives people Section 8, realtors are no longer accepting Section 8. Why? Because they don't want those economic people around. You don't have to like it, you ain't got to love it, but that's the reality of it. They don't care about your victimization, they don't care about how you was raised, they don't care about none of that because at the end of the day, it's all about money. Let me really quickly answer Scam Unlikely. He says marriage is based on economy. Really? Well, let me tell you, if you really study marriage from the whole aspect, it's always been based on a social and economic power base, always. So we can't dismiss that. I don't care if you use the African aspect of it, if you use the Asian aspect of it, if you use the Middle East aspect of it, if you use European aspect. Universally, marriage has always been based on the economic social basis. What do I mean by economic social basis? What I mean by that is simply this. If you look at certain levels of society, they always marry within their social network. That's how people usually get married. When you are now, especially today's time, I would always say, sit down, have an economic conversation, start learning how to build economically. When we start talking about people start talking about these prenups and understanding trust funds, a lot of black people in the 90s didn't know nothing about prenuptial agreements. They didn't know anything about trust funds. It was the first time they ever actually rose up as a whole economically. Statistically, 45% of African American families are married. Only 36% is headed by single women, 6% is headed by single men, and only 1% is headed by the alphabet community. So when you start talking in that manner and really getting down to that, then it gives you and your family purpose. Now I understand why I'm either going to work, or I really understand why I'm, going to work and maybe have a side business. Now in New York, I can say the word hustle. To everybody else, if I say hustle, they're going to think drugs. But in actuality, what is your side business? What can you do to not pay as much taxes as everyone else? How are we going to build and develop so if we don't want our kids to go to public school, we have the economic means to send them to private school? What are we going to do in this situation? Prenuptial agreements is a protection not for the man's wealth, it's really for the whole entire family wealth. Meaning, if something was to happen in your marriage, neither one of you is going out broke, busted, and disgusted. You're going out with a level of assets, maybe some liability, but all of the liability doesn't fall on one versus the other. It's a way of keeping the government and the state up out of your marriage. If you two come to that point where you cannot, be together for whatever, then both of you can separate. Everybody also has to understand when you take the deep dive into divorces, most divorces, if you really look at it, is based on the employment of one of the two. The highest divorces is usually military people, high-end executives, or you're looking at lawyers, doctors. That's a statistical fact. So in a lot of places, we got to have more of an open dialogue. And again, it's based on what sociological economics are you? Where are you going? Where do you want to go? That's where y'all have to know individual purpose, and then you got to have the collective purpose.
All right, Stu. Look, Stu, we got to get through this article, Stu.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Hey, no, you spitting fire. You spitting fire, but I
That,
just want to
that,
make sure
that
that we
wasn't
get through this
fire.
article so we could get
That
to the
was
point.
water.
What's going on, Scam?
That wasn't fire. That was water.
Are you married? Are you married?
Um,
Are you married?
no.
Okay, stop right there. Then you can't talk to a man that's married.
Yes, I can.
And when I say that, we on two different levels. You're a single man. You don't know what it's like to have a woman. You don't know what it's like to have children. You don't know what it's like to have grandchildren. Single men cannot have a real conversation about marriage with a married man. We on two totally different levels, my brother.
You're
You can only
actually
come up with
you're
the
adding more dust.
idealism.
You're
I
actually
live in the
adding more dust
reality.
onto it. That's
Huh?
even more dust. Okay. If the married men knew everything, why does the marriage rate go down every year? That would mean because they got kids and they know everything. That would mean year by year they're doing something and messing up the marriage rate. It means they're teaching bad information to their kids,
Okay, let me
their
let me let
peers,
me
and
school
everything.
you. Let me school you on this argument about these bad marriage rates.
But
Number
I ain't even
one,
get to because that was just a small part of it. I was talking
no,
about the
let me like I said, you're coming in here to argue about a concept of marriage. You're talking about why is the marriage rates going down?
no,
It depends on
I didn't even get six words out.
what are we talking about?
Oh no.
When
Okay.
when the numbers don't say that, that's a talking point. Again, when someone and
How is
I
it a
got too
talking
many
point if I
men
didn't
that
even get
want
to talk?
to, I got too many men that wants to be married. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a lot of men that's around me that wants to stay single. So you have to have those conversations with the single men. The
Okay,
men that
I'll
I
say
know that
this,
want to
and
be
then you can
married,
continue.
they're getting married and they're prospering.
Okay,
So
I'll tell you this,
all
then
that,
you
that's a
continue, because you're
talking
not gonna
point.
let
And
me
I
talk.
understand you coming up here with a talking point.
No,
As I said before,
I guess you're not gonna let me talk. But anyway, what I was saying was this. Um, shit, I forgot half my points. And I hate talking points. Those are the very things that keep people single and screwed the hell up. The damn talking points. But the point was, how do you mention all this about marriage and didn't mention anything about even liking the person that you're dealing with? The biggest problems is attraction and communication. People don't even like each other no more. And you're going all the way into some finances and all this stuff.
Okay, so let me say this. Scam, that's not true. That's not what I see in my real world versus this virtual world. I go outside my door, I see relationships all the time. I have a 24-year-old son, 7-month-year-old grandson, and they're getting married. So, no, I'm not going to allow virtual conversations to
You're not
interact
going to
all the
allow
time with
any
the
conversation.
reality.
That's one of the very problems. People talking, they just don't listen. They just keep talking and talking and talking and talking.
I mean, I know what you came to do,
I
Doc.
only got 8 words, but just talking. And that's one of the very problems. But point was, what does all the finance and all this other stuff got to do with the first things? And I agree that the business part does make sense. But people don't even talk and like each other. Communication, number one problem. People don't know how to talk to each other. Am I wrong? People don't like each other. People confidence and trust is damaged all the way to the gutter. There is no community and actual environments of people who could just go and connect with each other on good faith. That's way before you get to anything to do with some finances. At the end of the day, most of the people, their money ain't looking right. And if they get married, they can put it better together, regardless if it's 30, 50, 80,000. We all know that.
No, that's not true. And that's where I say I constantly debate that. I debate that. I debate that from here on out. The average person may not have $500 in their savings. That's 60%. Again, I'm on the opposite side and I'm going to stay on that side. And what do I stay on that side? Number one, I look at the reality versus what's saying online. Number two, I'm always going to be an advocate for marriage, regardless of what everybody say or think. That's number two. Number three, the only reason why you got a lot of the situations is because, yes, you do have a lot of people coming out of broken homes, but everybody don't come out of a broken home. Everybody don't come out of poverty. Everybody don't come out of the hood. There's a lot of us that did not have to touch any of those things. And therefore, it is my job, my role, and I consider it my responsibility to raise the conversation, learn how that conversation need to be, and show people what a healthy relationship looks like. So even when you begin to say people don't like each other, I have to again totally disagree because I see it outside of my neighborhood on a habitual basis. People getting together, people getting married, people getting in relationships. Now, even if you want to so-called do the shacking up, as they would say in the old language, I still see people doing that in a healthy way. So I teach healthiness. I don't teach bad hope, bad faith, and all this community building. No, I take one man, one woman at a time, build them up, fix them up, and send them out so that they could be prosperous and they could be successful. So the reality is, regardless of what you may be thinking or hearing, I also live in the real world. A Black, if you're talking, your mic is muted.
Yeah, this is the very thing.
Hold on,
And that's
scam,
why I
scam.
wrote.
I'm
That's
just
why
gonna
I
say this.
started.
I'm just gonna
Oh, go ahead.
hold on, scam. Hold on. I'm gonna say this.
Final round.
All right.
What?
I get both of you guys' points.
I never
Let's just
got a point. I
wrap
only
this
got
up.
8 words out. That's one of the
I'm
very
sorry, but that's just we're gonna wrap this up because I want to get the rest of this article. It's only like 2 or 3 paragraphs, so you know, but get y'all points. Uh, scam. I'm gonna let you rebuttal because I think you guys are. I understand where both of you guys are coming from. So let's just wrap it
no.
up.
One of the very problems is this: there are married people helping keep people single. They're doing it on platforms. They go say one thing and they tell you to do one thing and they're doing the whole opposite. And they're pitching some garbage. And they're not going to the very basics of what's wrong. Or they just assume because they're married and another person's single, they just don't know nothing. And they can say anything. Just like there's some rich people saying bad info and broke people saying good info, but they just assume because they're rich. I'm just as single as Kevin Samuels was. I'm just saying. But I know because I'm out here. I don't live on YouTube. YouTube is I mean, I'm a troll. And if you hadn't noticed, trolls got the most intelligence of what's going on. You got to know something. You got to know people. You got to know emotions, thoughts, all that stuff to be able to troll somebody. But long story, all I'm saying is this. The bigger problems, confidence, trust, communication, attraction, and people just being connected before you even get to talking about money. And when it's money, even if the person is broke with $500 in their bank account, and that's it. If they can put something together, now they don't have to spend $1,800 a month on rent. Now they can get their money together. But they got to start somewhere like the two people even connecting with each other. And most people ain't connected. That's all I was trying to say. That's all I got.
Good point. Good point. So let's get back to the article. Literally, I'm trying to get to it. So just because of timing, not only that, to not get too far away from the conversation, but let's go. All right. So the article continues and said there were instances of him not taking no for an answer if he wanted sex, and I had to go with it because he was entitled to me. She says, the pair are now broken up, and it's only recently that Sophie has confronted the scale of torment she faced. Now I'm at a point where I'm grieving the loss of almost 10 years of my life, she says, and starting to do some internal work to heal through the abuse. Sophie isn't alone in having to deal with a partner who has been radicalized by male influencers. Another woman who asked to go by B, is still with a Tate fan. The 27-year-old, also from the East Coast, met her boyfriend on Hinge more than 2 years ago and realized that he had become a fan of Tate's videos on traditional gender roles sometime last summer. I've noticed he will be more visibly upset about not having sex almost daily, and I feel like he sees it as some kind of transactional, like if we go to dinner, we should sleep together that night, she says. He'll use OnlyFans to have those needs met. And when I explicitly said I don't like it, he told me it's my fault. Has to use the app. B's partner believes modern feminism is wrong. Equality isn't possible because of biological differences, she says. Much like Tate, these sexist views extend to women's accounts of sexual violence. He's always hesitant to believe anyone from Me Too and is first to call out how a man would be criticized for doing one thing while a woman gets off for it. All right, so let's just continue with this paragraph. B says she's been significantly affected by her boyfriend's transformation. It makes me feel insecure and vulnerable that he could see me solely as an object for sexual gratification, or that's where my value lies, she explains. Though she says she still is hopeful he will change back to who he once was. So, a lot of it after that is pretty general stuff. But what do you guys think so far?
There's a lot of mixed comments in there. There's some stuff where I can see why, which is very true, in the sense of, if a woman does something and a man does the same thing, he would be more crucified than the woman. Yeah, I see that all the time. So yeah, I can see him arguing that and showing that. Um, but then I hear those same talking points even in the manosphere. So I can see where that influence is coming from. Absolutely.
I think I remember when I first became black conscious. Oh Lord, those were rough times. When I tell you, I was carrying around Malcolm X books and shoot, even I hate to say it, bell hooks, and I was
Yeah.
talking
Oh
about
man, you know Bell Hooks.
yes, bell hooks.
You had a little Patricia Collins in there too.
No, I didn't
All
get
right.
to Patricia Collins, but
Oh, you
I
had to get to Patricia Collins now.
I went deep down the rabbit hole, and I was going to work. I'm like, see the Western capitalistic imperial patriarchal system. I had it down pat,
Oh God.
and you know, but I it's one of those things where when you get a new source of information, you become enraged. I think Langston Hughes said that, or it may have been somebody else, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
You kind of made me laugh about that because I was like, yeah, I remember them days. I remember getting that, and I was all into the Malcolm. I was all into, I knew I still got some of Bell Hooks books, the Patricia Collins, and yeah, I was deep. I was radical, boy. You couldn't tell me nothing.
Yeah.
hey, hey, Ebler,
Yes.
question. Um, I guess it links to other stuff too. What I see, and just in general behavior, and you see it on YouTube a lot, people aren't looking to actually build and fight through the problem and become the better person, or actually become the problem solver to find the solution. What I find with the blackity blacks, they're looking and saying, yeah, it was the white man in 1822 and all this stuff. And then it's run to the government to go fix something. It's never a, what can I do to have a better life? And just things are what they are. Same thing with red pill. The women are the women. They are who they are. And it's not, let me look to go and be the better person, to be the better attractive, the better communicator, the better whatever. It's, well, let's go blame the women. And if it was the men, what about the women? If I was the man, it's not, they're not looking for a solution to solve anything. When you were into the blackity black stuff, were you looking for validation? Were you looking for information? Or are you looking to try to overcome and solve something?
I would say once I got into it, well, it happened around September 11th. I was wondering why the world was the way it was. I was wondering why poor people from another country would be so angry at whatever was going on that they would slam 4 planes into the ground. And I just couldn't imagine it was just simply because they just didn't like us. That was not that was my reason. So I was like, let me go look up some stuff. So I started going to the library and I started learning a little bit. So that's kind of what it was just kind of like, okay, I know something's not right. I know that it's it I was basically just searching for a reasoning why my current state or the current state of the world was the way it was.
Did you find, I'll say it. I remember 2013, I started looking at all that Illuminati garbage.
Oh Lord, don't
Started
tell
to
me about that
consume-
phase.
Yeah. And one thing I know is anytime somebody gets overly wrapped up in something and it's not something that has a form of personal development, they would just become a form of miserable or just fear mongered. I remember I got to a point I was looking at it, and two friends of mine, one of them was like, look, I tell you what, all these rappers are the devil. Is that what you want? Now, what you gonna do? And I didn't have an answer. Then another friend was like, look, the world's gonna be what it is. And if you read Revelations in the Bible, all this stuff just is what it is. That's how it's supposed to play out. So you can either get prayed, believed up, and go out here and deal with the world, or you can pretty much sit and be a victim and be complaining about uh, which satanic image somebody else got on the album cover that you ain't gonna never meet. And then I was just like, hey, this ain't solving no problems. So just stop listening to it. But I see a lot of people just get consumed and consumed and consumed and consumed. Red pill turns into black pill to MGTOW to just miserable to conspiracy theories to blackity black, white man myth. That's just what I see. But that's it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean, you hit it right on the spot. It's a little bit of confirmation that we get from our lack of stability. Don't talk to me about the Illuminati days. Oh Lord, those days were dark.
Oh,
Looking up moon rocks,
you got
looking
wrapped
up.
up into it too.
Yeah, I got wrapped up.
Yeah.
I
For
got
me, it was
wrapped up.
only like a month or two.
Yeah, but I mean, I think in terms of to even to change it to this conversation, I think you'd be surprised how many people are lost and confused, and how much a person can really take advantage of a mass market now that we have an internet. And not even people who are just in their basement stuck. There are regular people out there walking the street. You probably pass them every day on the bus or or in the store, who are just searching for something. And even some of my friends on Facebook, I get shocked that they'll post, like, I know this one white guy. He posts he posts police brutality videos, like, those first responders, hey, let me see a license, I have the right, I'm a sovereign citizen, them stuff. But he posts that like nonstop, and I don't know what validation he's getting from that. He may have had an experience from his past to kind of get him to that point.
Yeah, it goes deeper to what people are really looking for. Like red pill, and some are looking for revenge, some are looking
Yeah,
for acceptance, some are looking for a
revenge.
false sense of validation. Like some of them are going to say, okay, now Kevin Samuels said the average man makes 40,000. I'm actually okay. And they're looking, they go into spaces and they get pandered to by the men. You're better than these women. And that's what they were looking for, a false sense of confidence. Then they get it, they don't get the result. They yell at all the women on the panels. They still got dry meat, can't get, and then it becomes rage. Then they go to the other sides of what's wrong with these women, go to the worst panels or the worst or whatever. Then they just become anger man.
Hmm.
But if you go to the beginning, they're still looking for something. Some of them could be actually looking for love, but they're so dark they can't find it. Then they become looking for validation. They just want someone to be nice to them, some woman to like.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. E Black, I'm going to
Go ahead.
drop down. I got a business call that just came through.
Now you retired. I don't want to hear that.
I got to
All
drop in
right.
a minute too. Right.
Well, that's good. That's good. That's
Any
good.
final? Yeah, you want final words, Uncle Stu?
Nah, he said he got to drop. I
All right.
appreciate Uncle Stu
I'm
for
trying to share the
pulling
mic.
up. Huh?
No, I was trying to make sure I share the mic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate Uncle Stu for stopping through. You know, Scam. I appreciate you. You've been showing up to the last few Black afternoon conversations, man. I see you got some time now.
Sometimes. Still what's going on in the day, the work day.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you use the word revenge. And that's kind of like, even when I talk about my blackety black spate times, and my even, we want revenge. We want a revenge on the system. We all are searching for something. And even the young men that we mentioned in the article, they were searching for something that they personally didn't feel right, and or they aspired to be. Am I
It
wrong?
goes deeper. I put it this way, and no shot to Uncle Stu. But sometimes I have real conversations. Sometimes I just troll and say reckless stuff. So a lot of times people assume that I'm a regular dude yelling at the women and hate everybody. No substance, like a lot of people that come on some of it. But if you go deeper, you try to find out why people do what they do. And you can tell by how they say, what they're experiencing, what they're basing it on. And a lot of it can be revenge. But I don't think that they deep down really know that it's not going to solve the problem. But a lot of people are so emotional or emotion based that they can't sit down and actually create a plan or actually go deep and problem solve. It's just, I'll bring this up too. And let me know if I'm hogging the mic.
No, no, no. But well, let me say this. That isn't that the nature of groups or channels. You're really trying to you're really trying to associate with people with like-mindedness, or at least environments where you can express your frustrations or your truths.
In an ideal world, yes. In an ideal world, there should be a channel that says relationships 101, and people should be able to come and get a one-on-one style lesson. But instead, there's relationship guru Jenkins and YouTube Smith. They could be married 40 years and tell you to go out there and simp. Or they could be had their women out of control and then tell you, I mean, people can get on here and say anything they want to say. And most of them, to be honest, are frauds. Most of them, what they're saying, they don't believe in. Something's backwards, or it's just about the garbage. Some of them, it's just maybe 80% is cool, and there's that shady 20. But some of them just coming up here saying anything.
Yeah, I
I don't
do.
mention no
It,
names.
it,
But
it's
if you go deeper, they don't believe the very talking points that they're pitching.
oh, I agree.
A lot of them don't even make sense. Some of the dumbest ones to me. People are divorcing because of finances. Finances, finances. Explain how. You marry a dude making 61,000. 5 years into the marriage, you say, you're only making 69. I want a divorce. Is that really what's happening? Really? And most of the people believe it. Not even going to one website, and any of them, they'll all tell you, number one is communication. Number two is infidelity. Number three is compatibility. Number four is finances. And if you look at how they're divorcing off finance, it's not because somebody just, well, you blue collar, I don't like you no more. It's more somebody with a gambling addiction, not paying the rent, and they got evicted, or funny stuff like that. Something to do with managing the finances. But they can say anything, and the zombies and robots will go just eat it up. But there
Yeah.
are a few people looking for solutions. Going back to what I was gonna say, I went and visited my aunt. Matter of fact, you say you watched Love and Marriage Huntsville.
Yes,
Yeah.
sadly. I'm being forced to for research purposes.
Yeah, I didn't get to talk to Marcel and Maurice that much, but I was talking to my aunt, the mom. She's a professor, and I think I told you that. Those are my cousins. I was there last weekend. She was telling me the effect of how people are taught. Her generation growing up, they had to do the work in school, learn the material, and then present something and answer questions. I'm kind of mixed, where we knew how to reason and we knew how to do the work, understand the material, but we also knew how to find the answers. Like just go to the back of the book, do whatever, and just get the answers and get a grade. But nowadays, people are so taught to just find the answers and not be able to critically think that they can't do it in their real life either. So they just scramble, look, find a quick answer, quick fix. That's how their brains are wired. I was like, oh my God, I never thought about that. And they just run with anything they're taught without looking outside, asking questions, asking why, studying people's emotions, studying why, how did things become the, will this solve the problem? Does it make sense? They don't do that.
You
And I
know,
thought you can
I've been on my
spend
little.
anything on
I've been
pheromones when they buy it.
I've been trying to like lose a little weight, right? And it's funny. This is the first time I'm actually in this position, so now the industry of weight loss is kind of like new. And it's funny how many people who are at the end of the trail, well, this is all you get, six pack abs, and this is what you need to do. And there's really very few in between.
What do you mean? What do you
It's
mean?
very, it's very,
When
it's not,
they're telling you it's a quick fix.
yeah, yeah. And it's not like, okay, well, what kind of equipment do I need? Buy this thing for $300. And 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 everything is behind a paywall to where it's like, yeah, we'll work with you, and in 30 days you'll have this much weight loss. And it's nothing about, okay, what do I need to go to the store and actually buy? There's nothing really. concrete. And I think a lot of, especially what we do, or especially what people want, is the quick fix. And I can see it in the marketplace. A lot of people just really want to know how to get to the body. They want to see the results. So a lot of time, he want a lot of the times people just really want to, okay, there's this guy, Andrew Tate. How do I get like him? There's this guy, he's a multimillionaire. How do I get like him? But there's no in between to say, okay, well, if how do I start getting my real estate license? You know?
They're taught, okay, if you're in the right environment, there's a level of reason of things being reasonable. Like I was born, like I was never athletic. Fifth, sixth grade, I had seventh grade, I couldn't lift a bar. So I couldn't even go in the weight room where the football players were. You can't bench the bar. I mean, what you gonna do? But I saw the picture. I had a friend 4 years older than me who used to lift. His brother, matter of fact, ended up becoming a trainer. He trains University of Michigan football team, strength and conditioning, trained some astronauts. Um, but there was a level of what do I have to do this and a level of scalability versus just somebody telling me anything. Um, I asked this question too. Like, I remember when I was teaching in Houston, I was teaching in the hood, and the kids had these unrealistic dreams. They don't play on the rec team. They got kicked off of this, suspended from here. All these problems. Don't know nothing, nobody know nothing. I'm gonna be a movie star. I'm gonna be a no, because my mama and I'm gonna do this. I'm a. One day they're gonna turn 19 and realize that they're not gonna be what they said they're gonna be. Their confidence is gonna fall overnight into the gutter, and they're gonna be mad. Or whoever, whatever, their mama, their uncle, whoever's telling them you can just jump up and be a NBA player in a week, they're gonna be upset. And it's gonna be a problem. And crushing people, crushing people's dreams and minds. Oh, that's poison. They don't care about nothing. But yeah, oh
Yeah,
chef, come up with something
because
called fear and consumption. Hey chef, if you ever do a show or got something on that, let me know. Because one thing I want to know more about is fear mongering and how they put this together and actually sell it and start moving people. If you ever
oh,
do
I
a
can't
show,
do a show like that, Scam. What?
both of y'all, why
I'm
not?
joking. You said, "Hey, chef, put a show together."
No, I just saw it because we put it in the comments.
Yeah, that is a good topic to talk about, fear and consumption.
Yeah, you see it in these spaces. And I was telling me and somebody get into that about that weekly. Everything they pull up, man, look at this article in Tennessee. This woman left the man because his toenail wasn't clipped. Oh, look at these women twerking in the alley in
Or
Arizona.
no, the one that's hot
Yeah,
right now is the
look at the
seven.
boys.
The one that's hot right now is the seven baby
7 kids,
mamas.
dude.
Yeah, I'm like, if y'all don't stop, because y'all, it's obviously a troll.
But I mean, in that very point, you don't know what these people got going on. Um, but it's not your norm. When you go to the grocery store, you're not going to see 8 dudes pull up in minivans with all these kids in the damn back. It's not the norm. One person out, or even with the shootings and whatever, but even with the police, to be honest, it's not everywhere you go. You got the roads blocked off because they stopped and beat the first black person they seen. That's not reality. Some stuff happens once every out of 58,000 people, and they act like it's happening every day. But the news makes money off of that, and they program and condition people's brains off of it. So, I mean, hey,
Yeah, I really, I'm at the point. It's very frustrating for a person like me, but I'm starting to be more or less blind to a lot of the BS. But I understand it, you know. It we live in an extremism, and sometimes extremism invokes emotion, and when you are able to invoke emotion, you're able to sell products. And that's the one thing I learned in
Yeah.
advertising class, is that when you have a product to sell, you want to invoke some type of emotional connection between you and the product. And if you're not invoking that emotion, then you're more likely not to get the sale. So I think a lot of times, what we're seeing especially is the invoke of emotions. But what I, like I told Stu earlier, I said, yo, this is what ethical leadership is about. Because as you can see, a person could truly ingest your toxicity and then spew it onto them. And then guess what Andrew Tate's gonna say? Well, it's
Oh,
not my fault. I didn't say nothing about that.
yeah. We know how that works. Just
Yeah.
like, but it's supposedly I'm supposed to be on this man code and believe anything that everything Kevin Samuel said supersedes the Bible. YouTube talking points supersede the law. But people got to critically think. If something doesn't make sense, there's probably a reason for it. I'm not
Yeah.
saying I know everything and I got all the solutions, but hey, just in life, there's stuff that I see, and I learn from my own mistakes and dumb stuff that I didn't do. But
What
what
up,
up?
Chef?
Yo, yo, yo. What's
I'm
going
like you
on?
right now, working, but on YouTube, but don't tell nobody.
Yeah, look, I got a meeting I got to conduct in about the next 8 minutes. But man, this is a great conversation. This is a great conversation. The only piece I really wanted to jump in about was the fear and consumption part. Fear and consumption is one of those things that's always been used, within capitalist society. If I don't if I don't eat this, I'm going to get fat. If I do eat this, I'm going to get fat. If I don't get this tooth whitener or this cologne, I won't get laid. If I don't do this thing, then I won't get that thing. And it actually appeals to our emotional sense of need. It also appeals to what they call it's a certain mindset, the scarcity mindset,
Mm-hmm.
where nothing is ever enough. But that whole thing literally comes from the capitalistic society. That's why in something as simple as supersize, we're the only country, that has McDonald's where we can supersize. You don't supersize elsewhere in the world. Nothing is ever enough for us. We want to go bigger. We want to go faster. We want to go higher. We want all of these different things. So why is it? Because once you're emotionally attached to a particular thing, what happens is once you start to feel that there's something lacking within that thing or yourself, you're going to work hard to eliminate that lack. You're always going to want to fill a particular void. And what's happening within the capitalistic society is it's actually creating false voids within us without trying to get too deep. There's shit that we had before back in the days. Oh, it's daytime. Stuff, where people could just sit down and watch the grass grow. Now, everybody requires a smartphone. Everybody requires a tablet. There's people that will not go any place where there's not a cell phone signal. It's there's false voids as we evolve that are created. Some, I don't want to say to enslave us, but psychologically, spiritually, it's almost a sense of enslavement because now you're tethered to things that didn't mean shit to you before. You desire and covet things that you don't even know about. There's women that want a Birkin bag that never had a Dooney and Burke purse, which is, a cheaper purse, right? It's these false voids, but we have to understand
False
how they're
voice.
delivered,
I like that.
how they're delivered to us and who's delivering them and what's not the modus operandi, but what's the desired impact? What's the desired goal? Because everything they sell to you is there's a call of action. Go do this right now. There's always a call of action when you're delivering a particular message. So it's about opening your eyes and paying attention to the why and the who. and what the desired impact is.
I like the way you put that because I see it saying the same thing. If you really break it down and sit down with a person and ask why they're doing the thing that they do, if you dig layers and layers and layers, you'll find validation, acceptance, or some form of love is what they're looking for. But they'll be so far off that they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. And it's something that's false. I like the way you put that.
Thank you. But yo, fellas, listen here. I do apologize. I just wanted to pop in. Normally when I work, I don't go on lives, but I had to say something in this great conversation, man.
Yeah. Hey, check your back chat.
I already got it. I already locked in, locked and loaded. I'm gonna give you a holler.
Cool.
Yeah, and in closing, I want to show my appreciation for everybody. Next time, maybe you can join the Black Tabletop, the Black Afternoon conversation. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. Please subscribe and check out some of the playlists. Also, join the Black Pride membership to support your local Dusty content creator. But thank you guys. This is the Black Afternoon Conversation. I appreciate everybody who showed up, and thank you.
All I see is wigs, by the way. Just in case you didn't know.